NC State family, it's time for an honest look at your sports world. Let's get you hooked up for Pack Therapy, presented by First Horizon Bank. Here are your hosts, Tim Donnelly and Wolfpack football legend Mike Glennon.
Welcome back into another edition of the Pack Therapy Podcast. I'm Tim Donnelly, joined by Mike Glennon. As you can tell, if you're watching on our YouTube live stream or anywhere the video podcast lives, we are not in the studio today. We're handling this one remotely because I am out in Charlotte for the ACC basketball tip-off event that is taking place today and tomorrow for the men, yesterday and today for the women. We're recording this on Wednesday. So I guess, Mike, I saw the joke a million times. I guess it's appropriate. Basketball season's not that far away, right? The good news after that Wake Forest game is your Final Four NC State men's basketball team is going to be on the court in the not too distant future, as evidenced by myself being in Charlotte.
I hated that when I played. I would, we would have like some sort of loss midway through the season, and it'd be like, well, basketball season's right down the road. So as a player, I don't like the joke, but
I saw it. And by the way, not just with State, like it was a statewide.
Carolina loves it.
It was a statewide joke this weekend. And if the Carolina Panthers had a basketball team, they'd be looking towards basketball season as well. Maybe the Hornets. But it's actually, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And by the way, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Find this everywhere podcasts can be found. As always, tell your friends, share, all those sorts of things. Subscribe, hit the alerts button. And if you have a question for Mike, we answer questions at the end of every podcast. Go ahead and leave those questions on our YouTube page. So go to YouTube. You can search 99.9 The Fan, Pack Therapy, find it however you want. The comments on this video are the questions for the next video. So come back during the Syracuse game, during, after, ask the questions, and we'll answer a handful of them each episode. I'm going to start with a question that we've started with after most of the losses this year, but I'm going to zoom in a little bit. It has been like, what the heck was that, right? Because after that Clemson game, after the Tennessee game, it felt very appropriate to just go like, goodness gracious, as a whole, what was that? With this one, I'm going to zoom into the fourth quarter. What the heck was that after State takes a 10-0 lead in the fourth, where you feel like, a Dave Doran team, 10-0 or 10-point lead in the fourth should kind of, you assume it's going to be wrapped up, and then obviously it wasn't.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. They didn't finish. I mean, it's a cliche coaching point that you see on the back of T-shirts, and strength coaches are yelling every drill is finish. And, this year we're going to do a better job finishing. And that's what it was. The 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. And really, NC State kind of dominated the game as far as from a statistical standpoint. Yards, time of possession was huge in NC State's favor heading into the fourth quarter. And, you take the 10-point lead, and then you let Wake hang around. They go down and score a touchdown. You go 3 and out, and then Wake has a 13-play drive. I mean, you have a 9-play drive by Wake Forest, followed by a 3 and out and a 13-play drive touchdown, and the game's essentially over. So it wasn't that NC State, I would say, played bad. They just didn't finish the game. I don't think that was a very good Wake Forest team. That defense, we talked about it last week, was basically leading the nation, however you want to say it, in defense in the opposite way. We were giving up almost 500 yards of offense, and NC State's offense moved the ball well on them, and it looked like pretty much any throw was there. It wasn't like there was a ton of contested plays. They were given free access throws on the outside all day. Wake Forest's offense, I think the Wake Forest coaching staff did a good job scheming up Tony Gibson, and we know Tony Gibson loves cover zero, all-out pressure, and a lot of times teams check to a play where it's too late, where Wake Forest looked like they were calling the play, and the quarterback wasn't executing. I mean, you had the running back. It was a great play design. The running back free release with the lineman, and the quarterback misses the throw. There was multiple plays where they just missed the throw. I did not think that was a very good Wake Forest team. And NC State just has to find a way to finish.
That's what frustrated me the most is Coming into the game, Wake Forest was top 5 in the ACC in passing yards per game, bottom 5 in the ACC in rushing yards per game. And that fourth quarter, that it's almost like they went, why are we trying to throw it? We can push this team around. And they just ran the ball, partially because of what you said. Bachmeier was missing open guys. So it's like, if we're not even going to complete the passes that we've schemed up correctly, let's just win in the trenches. And that fourth quarter, it was funny on my afternoon show. I had a caller call in and was, I wouldn't say complaining about CJ Bailey, but trying to be honest and critique him. And he was like, dude, what did he do on those 2 fourth quarter drives when it was down? And I went and looked it up. One fourth quarter drive was a 3-and-out. You're gonna gotta wear the criticism that comes with it. The only other fourth quarter drive was a 1-play interception with like 20 seconds left. Wake Forest just possessed the ball for the entirety of the fourth quarter, and they did that running the ball, which is so frustrating when Wake Forest up to that point hadn't been a great running team.
Yeah, I will say Wake Forest's running back, Damon Claiborne, he did look good. Mm-hmm. He was a bright spot for that offense, and he made some plays. Bachmeier, he made plays when it mattered on fourth down. But other than that,
had a nice couple runs. Like, it wasn't like he was completely ineffective. It was just a different kind of effective than maybe they were hoping for.
Right. We always talk about being opportunistic, and he had guys wide open at times, and he missed throws. So, but to kind of Dave Clawson's credit, he went for it on fourth and I think it was 5 from the 50 when they were down 10, and they converted. When you could argue maybe you should punt. Or maybe that was the possession after. Either way, they made some risky choices that paid off. And I remember there was a cover 0 in there as well, where they kind of hit a guy on a slant. All in all, I don't think you could really blame CJ Bailey in the offense. You don't want to have a 3-and-out, obviously, in critical time, and that's what we talk about. They just didn't finish when it mattered.
We probably have, and this is on me since I'm kind of driving this, probably taken too long to wish happy and healthy thoughts for Grayson McCall. That moment, a very scary one for everybody that's played the game, everybody that's watched the game. To the family on the sidelines were obviously worked up about it. I don't even like doing the what would you do in that, like, would you be done playing if it would. I don't like doing that because everybody's got to make those decisions for themselves. But so we'll start with the basic and obvious, rooting for a completely healthy recovery. The news has been good since the event. Out of the hospital, the scans are coming back the way you'd want them to. But I actually have to give the offense a lot of credit for not letting that completely upend their day. It was essentially, at minimum, a 10-point swing because you're in field goal range, and the fumble and the return sets it up for a touchdown the other way. To have that happen, and on top of that, it's one of your buddies, it's your friend, it's a guy you've worked with who's in a precarious situation. To work your way back into having an effective offensive day after that is impressive by the offense.
Yeah, I was at the game, and really one of the most kind of chilling experiences I've ever been a part of it. I've been on sidelines where guys go down. My first ever college football game was at South Carolina, and Russell Wilson got carted off, kind of immobilized. And this was unlike anything I've seen, because you immediately see him go down and you could tell he's out cold. Mm-hmm. You see the way that some of the players were reacting. I'm looking out of my left eye and I'm seeing that. Out of my right eye, I'm seeing the other 8 guys on the team racing, running down to tackle Wake Forest. And you see the whole medical staff running out on the field as the play's going on. It was unlike anything I've ever seen.
The helmet's off, and then you his history. There's a lot.
The field, his mom, his girlfriend. And I mean, it was, you immediately think of, well, he just came off of likely a concussion. He missed half of last year with concussion. It was, I'm not going to say what DeMar Hamlin was, but it was kind of that kind of urgency and panic you could see on the medical staff. So to your point, it was pretty impressive the way that they rallied around CJ and the offense. Because, at the time we now know he's been released from the hospital. Sounds like things are going good. While the game's going on, maybe they got some sort of inclination, kind of gave the thumbs up on the way out, but you really don't know. So, man, that was tough to see. And like you said, it's his own choice of what he wants to do for his future. So it's hard to really comment on that. But that was a tough moment to witness as a fan. So I can imagine the players and teammates and friendships, what that was like for them.
And there's no easy transition from like a serious conversation like that to sports. But CJ Bailey comes in. Give us the howdy do, like give us the grade. Not the easiest situation to have that emotion at the beginning of the game, but then he went in and was effective.
Yeah, I think CJ played well. Obviously, the interception at the end, I'm not sure what happened with that ball. That was the most inaccurate ball we saw all day. The good, again, we're seeing a guy that has some real arm talent. We're seeing a guy that can, move around in the pocket. The bad, at times he's going to look like a freshman. It's just, that is what it is. He doesn't have the experience to make the right read every time, to have the timing down. Right now, I think we're seeing him go through his reads a little bit quick. He's got to let the play develop a little bit more. He missed KC on kind of that fake screen and go for a wide open touchdown. And I think the coaching point is you just have to kind of be patient and let the play develop. You got to, don't go through your reads so fast. At times, your feet are usually timed up to the timing of the play. And it just looks like right now he's going through his reads a little bit too quick. And he's missing some plays that are developing a little later. But all in all, he's looking good. I mean, that's what you're going to see from a freshman quarterback. I'm sure Nebraska is seeing it with Raiola. Like, it's just part of the evolution of a quarterback is that you're gonna make some plays and you're gonna miss some plays. So all in all, I'm impressed with CJ Bailey. I think he's got a very bright future just because of his skill set. And right now, it's just finding a way for him to figure out the timing of the play and letting his feet and the rhythm of how the play should progress. So that way he's not going through his reads too quickly.
And that is a bit counterintuitive. I think most people would think freshmen would take longer and would get there late and wouldn't think as quickly as maybe a veteran. But a lot of times it is what you're saying, where it's like, I know my reads, I know 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're to the third read well before you should be. The defense hasn't gotten a chance to show you what you need to. I don't know why, but I always equate it to this. Back when I was learning to drive, you right, and I don't know how they do it in all these states around here, but in Hawaii, you had to do so many hours like with a teacher, and the teacher was like, "All right, you're driving a little fast," and I was like, "Oh, whoa!" Like you'd think, like, "Oh, I'm so nervous with the teacher in the car, I'd be driving slow," and she actually went. She went, "You must play sports." She was like, "Athletes usually just naturally are faster drivers right out the gate," and I'm always like, I feel like that's like a quarterback thing, even more so, where they're out there and it's just like, I did my film study. I know what I'm doing. Like, boom, 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 boom. And then way too early. You got to give it time. And that comes with just a little bit of experience.
Yeah. And I think he'll continue to settle in as he grows. I will say I was a little surprised. Wake Forest did not mix up the coverage at all. What they showed pre-snap is exactly what they played post-snap. And, we talked the week before versus Northern Illinois, where they kind of would mix it up. They'd show one thing pre-snap and rotate to something else. So he did look confident. If it was a kind of yes, no, you see kind of these RPOs where they just have like a 5-yard out built in, and he saw the free access to corners off 10 yards, he would catch it and he'd rip it. It was more the plays where it was a little longer developing that I felt like he was just going too fast. But
and it's his offense moving forward. So at least for the immediate future. So it's just things to work on, right? There's going to be things to work on. When you're a senior, there's things to work on. So
yeah,
he'll continue getting better.
For me, he's on the right track. It's just, you can't expect a true freshman to be perfect and all that. I think his pocket movement has been well. There was a few times where I just felt like he didn't see the field great, but that's just to be expected.
Last question, and then we'll take a break and come back with questions from the listeners. Brett McMurphy, who covers the college football as a whole, he's worked for a bunch of different publications, does a good job with it. Every week he puts out his bowl predictions on who's going where and what, this team's going to meet up with this team in the Beef O'Brady Bowl. This week, for the first time, State is not in the bowl predictions. overreaction, underreaction is a legitimate concern. Give us the temperature.
Look, I mean, so 3-3, got to win 3 more of the next 6.
Haven't beaten a Power 5 team yet or a Power 4 team yet, and your quarterback that you started the season with is looking like he's probably not going to be playing.
No, if I would be a betting man, I think they do get to 6.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they get to 7, just the way this team has looked so far. That to me, that was not a great Wake Forest team, and to be that close, there's been way too many close games against teams that I think are inferior, and the really good teams have blown us out. So I think it is fair to have legit concern. I think at the end of the day, we will get in a bowl game, but I think it's going to be close.
Syracuse this week. Syracuse is good. They're 4-1. The one not great game being a loss to a longtime ACC rival Stanford. Kyle McCord has thrown for at least 340, 339 in each game. We'll touch on that, and we'll get to the listeners with your questions that can be left in our YouTube comments for each of these podcasts. You can leave one right now on this video if you'd like. We'll get to that right after this here on Pack Therapy. We're back here on Pack Therapy. I'm Tim Donnelly, Mike Glennon, NC State quarterback, longtime NFL quarterback, co-hosting as always. The reason for our remote broadcast, if you've forgotten already, I'm at ACC basketball tip-off in Charlotte, getting ready for that. So it's coming and going. It's the overlap part of the calendar, which is always really fun for ACC fans. I'll tell you what the theme, as we go to our listener questions, and you can leave questions for Mike on our YouTube page, just right at the bottom of this video. Find it, 99.9 The Fan. Seems like there's a theme every single week that most people either have questions about or just want to vent about or want to comment about. The theme of the comments for this week is Casey Concepcion. It's his usage, and for the first time, I'm starting to see legitimate questions about maybe getting him the ball as often or making him the number one isn't the way to go. So I'll go to a first question from David here on YouTube. How about making big target Justin Joly the go-to target to open up Concepcion? How do you feel about maybe changing up Concepcion's role?
Yeah, I was impressed with 3 guys in that game, and it's Noah Rogers, Wesley Grimes, and Justin Joly. So to that point, I think they've tried too hard now to get Casey the ball behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, the jet sweeps, it's just not working. So I think they do just need to put plays in and kind of get rid of that, little box we talked about on the call sheet of getting Casey the ball. And if the ball goes to him naturally by, CJ going through his progression, great. If not, I'm confident in those other guys. I mean, there's one, those guys have impressed, and 2, in all reality, Casey, he had a ball thrown to him perfect right across the middle, and he dropped it. I mean, it's like the production just isn't there, and I'm not saying it's all his fault. Some of it is the way that they're getting him the ball is hard to be productive, but given his opportunities, I don't see why they need to feature him more than anyone else at this point. I think those other guys have shown that they can play, and maybe trying to force the ball to Casey has held this offense back some. So I am in favor of just let's go out and play ball. And if Casey gets the ball, great. If not, we're more than comfortable with Justin Joly getting the ball and Wesley Grimes and Noah Rogers. So that's what I think we will probably see more of. The one nuance that I would maybe like to see is it seems like Casey's always playing in the slot, and it seems like right now CJ's a little bit more comfortable throwing to the outside. I think it's just less crowded and not as many bodies, that maybe they put Casey, kind of split him out wide and let him not just be a slot receiver, let him play kind of the extra Z is how I know it, and that might be a way to get him the ball more.
Neither of us played as true freshmen. Is that tough on CJ Bailey to have a older guy, returning star, and you have to be the one to go, I'm not going to throw it to you on this play, right? The coach isn't. You might not have 4 touches in the first half because it just hasn't been working.
It's kind of like we talked about last week. We compared it to me and Vincent Jackson, and I think that for CJ, he just got to say, I'm going through my reads, and if it gets Casey the ball, then great. If not, it doesn't. And I think that's kind of where this playing inside versus playing outside kind of shows up. And maybe that's more because Wake Forest played a style of defense that was more just free access, one-on-one on the outside. My guy versus your guy, it just turns into one-on-one drill, in practice, where in the middle, in the slot, it wasn't quite that much. So for CJ, he can't be thinking that way, that, I got to get Casey the ball. He's just got to go through his reads, and if it happens that Casey gets it, then that's what it will be. But let the defense and the progression of the read dictate where he's going with football.
Just to push back a little bit, obviously I watch your games pretty closely. I'm your cousin. I don't remember Vincent Jackson having many lulls for multiple weeks where he would be upset with the quarterback. It is different. We've talked about Casey Concepcion's body language after scoring the touchdown a couple weeks ago. It is a little different when the guy's not, if Vincent's coming to you and complaining for the 9th catch instead of the 8th, I feel like it's a little easier to stand your ground and go you'll get what you get when he's getting 8 catches and 100 yards.
Yeah, there was no complaining. He was appreciative of all the balls coming his way. So to your point, it is a little bit different. I would hope KC isn't doing that to a true freshman quarterback. I agree. The body language still wasn't great last week. Mm-hmm. And, who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But that would be a bad thing for this team if a player like KC is, letting his frustrations known to a true freshman quarterback.
I know we got to get to these questions because that's what this segment is. I also don't mind well-placed anger after that loss. Don't direct it towards the freshman quarterback. Don't do this. But there is a part of a locker room that should be pissed off, quite frankly, after that game. And as long as it's directed in the right ways, it's not a bad thing to show.
Right. Emotion. If it's about we and not me, then that's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be the one that has the positive impact on the team going forward, to help the team win, then I'm all for it. But if it's, just you're complaining because you're not getting your touches for you personally, then that's an issue. And that's where, the leadership of the team has to step up.
Clay on YouTube asked this question. Is it time to go 65-35 pass run split? Throw the damn ball to our weapons is what he says. Would you be in favor? I mean, the run game, another one of pretty ineffective. A lot of carries. I think it was 29 carries, but under 4 yards a carry yet again. Is it time to just, tell CJ Bailey it's Air Wolfpack?
I do think they need to air it out probably more. The run game just is not effective. I also think that Raphael needs to become more the primary running back. And honestly, I wouldn't mind sprinkling in KC like they did the other day. He looked pretty good back there.
That spin move right through the hole at the line of scrimmage. It was there's a little something there, which could appease the touches thing we were talking about.
But to me, I think the best players on the offense are out wide, and really those 4 guys we just talked about. So I think that I'm all for a good run game for the kind of, like we talk about the complementary football aspect of it. I think there's something demoralizing to a defense when you run the ball on them. But we're 6 games into the season, and that is just not happening. So I think there needs to be you don't want to completely abandon the run, but I think we need to pivot to our strengths and, throw the ball a little bit more. And it did feel like we threw the ball a lot. So I'm not even saying that into the crowd of, we get a 10-point lead and Dave comes conservative. I didn't think that was the case. I would have to go back and look, but I think on that 3 and out that that we're talking about when there was a lead,
it's almost hard to go to be conservative in 3 plays.
Right. It was a run for 1 yard and then two passes.
Yeah. And if it were 2 runs and a pass, I'm not going oh my gosh, they were so conservative. It's just 3 plays isn't enough to show a tendency.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that was the case here, but the best playmakers on this team are the receivers and tight ends. So let's get them the ball a little bit more.
Let's get a little more kind of theoretical with these questions. Those were kind of nitty gritty. D-Dog asks on YouTube, how do you come back from a devastating loss like this versus Wake Forest and their terrible defense at home, knowing any real hopes for any sort of ACC championship is gone?
Yeah, I think, you kind of.
I mean, that is ripping the Band-Aid off and saying, like, how do you deal with a really, really tough game?
You hope that intrinsically that you're motivated to play your best for both for your team and for yourself, for your future, and all that. So, yes, the ACC champion. We'll start with the college football playoff. That was a goal. Looks like that's gone. ACC championship looks like that's gone. But let's make the most out of our season. Just because you don't make it to the ACC championship or a playoff doesn't mean the season's a failure. We have to rally around each other and kind of circle the wagons and make the most out of last season. And this is the exact same situation they were in last year, and they went on a run. So I'm sure that's being talked about. Last year, was it 3-3? I mean, they finished at 9-3.
Won five straight. So whatever that ended up being.
Right.
But
so that's 4-3.
Remember how triumphant that Pop-Tarts Bowl felt. Like, that's not the college football playoff, but making it to that Pop-Tart Bowl felt like something. And that's all based on the last 5 games of the regular season.
Right. So I think there still is a lot to play for, both collectively as a team and personally, that I think Dave has created the culture here that they, it's not just ACC championship or bust in their mind. They still have a lot to play for.
Last one from the listeners. I brought it up earlier. Syracuse, they're one of the surprises of the ACC. A lot of transfers looking pretty darn good, including Kyle McCord. The listener asks can you give us a key to the game? So I'm giving you like the Jim Nance setting Tony Romo up right before kickoff. Like, Tony, give me a key to the game. What do you have?
The key to the game here is it appears that Syracuse is a defense that shows multiple looks, and they're going to be the opposite of what Wake Forest did. And they're going to play a whole bunch of different coverages, and they're going to mix it up. So what that tells me is CJ Bailey is going to need a post-snap, realize what coverage they're in and go through his progression. And he's got to prove that he can handle that, because just what we've talked about versus Northern Illinois, he struggled versus that. Versus Wake Forest, at times, if he had to go through his progression, he was going through it too fast. So how does CJ Bailey handle the multiple looks that Syracuse is going to throw at him?
Now I'm going to flip it on you. I'm going to flip the listener question idea on you. We're recording this Wednesday, October 9th. Later today on my afternoon show, I'm talking with Kevin Keats. I'm talking with Jaden Taylor. I'm talking with Michael O'Connell, essentially the starting backcourt for the men's basketball team for NC State. I know you're a fan. I know, especially for basketball, you can kind of take off. Like, watching football in some ways is kind of ruined for us for the rest of our lives. We're going to be like noting safeties forever and ever. In basketball, you can kind of turn your brain off and just watch and have fun. Is there anything specific you want to know, or any commented question you would leave for the movers and shakers of the NC State basketball team?
I think it's almost your previous question about how does NC State kind of stay focused and motivated for the rest of this football season is how do the NC State basketball team handle the success. Mm-hmm. This is honestly uncharted territory for NC State, basketball to be coming off the season they did and become America's team and all of that. And how do they handle the success in the off season to, keep going for this year? It's a new season. There's going to be new players on the team, but for those returning players and Coach Keats is how do you handle success and move on from last year? Now that that's over, this is a new season and we want to get back to where we were, but how do we kind of stay in the moment and not live in the past and go from there?
Mike, appreciate it as always. Everybody else listening, thank you for listening, and leave your comments on our YouTube page right under this video. Questions for Mike, and you might just hear him answered next week. Until then, have a great week, everybody.